6 months ago, I made a video on the Canon R7. I said that the Canon R7 is my beast because I thought it was fairly underrated. But now we're here 6 months later, and the question comes down to, was it still worth it? Was it worth it to get the R7? Was his money worth to give us the deets after 6 months? How was it, Micah? And I'm gonna give you those deets right now in this video. Okay, so just quick rundown for you. The Canon R7 came out in about, I believe, 2021, 2022. It came out in the range of 2021, 2022 in July, I believe. Yes, June 23rd, 2022. So in my last video, this is kind of annoying me. So my last video about the R7, I just quickly went over some specs, reasoning as to why I got the R7. So in this video, I wanna go into more detail. I wanna go into the features of the R7, the build, the price, the specs. I wanna dive into my experience with the R7 over these months. And then finally, I wanna tell you who's the R7 really for now that I got more time to spend with it. You see, when I first made that video, I get, it's like, I just got the R7, I didn't really have too much experience, but now look at me now. I have more experience with it. So I'm a credible source. Yes, sirree. So as you know, this camera goes for about $1,500, $1,400, $1,300. B&H is always discounting some prices off. So depends on really where you go. It is the Canon R7. So this camera is a part of Canon's mirrorless line. So it has an RF mount. It has 34 megapixels, but the effective megapixels is 32.5. The image sensor is an APS-C or Super 35, whichever way you want to say. The camera does have in-body image stabilization on 5 axes, and it does have sensor shift. So if your camera is like, you got the right concept, but let me just adjust it a little bit, the camera will do that, which is kind of cool, and stabilization to stabilize the footage and everything. So it records up to 4K, and even this thing called 4K Fine, which is 7K oversampled. 7K image squeezed down to 4K. It records H.265, 422 10-bit. That's good. That's a real step up. It only records an IPB and IPB light. It doesn't have all I. The difference is pretty much how the camera compresses the footage and the file size. So all I has a file size that's 3 times bigger than IPB. And it kind of takes each an individual frame and compresses that. IPB has a smaller file size, of course, and it kind of compresses images in groups, in a way. There's been things that have been saying all I is better for color grading and everything, and it has better look to it, or is like sharper or something. I don't know if that's actually true. A lot of people, they just don't really care. They just do IPB or all I. Cameras like the R5 or something that has all I, this has only IPB. But of course it's up to you if you want to get that all I, those bigger file size, just to have the bigger file sizes and have like the best image you can possibly get. Go off. Okay, so 4K Fine, like I told you, 7K oversample, that can only be recorded into 30 FPS. But if you go down to regular 4K, that can be recorded up to 60 FPS. The R7 has high frame rate, so it can record 120 FPS at 1080 though. This camera does record in C-Log 3, not 2 or C-Log 1. And of course it takes raw stills. It has dual SD card slots, UHS 2, not UHS 1, UHS 2. It has one USB-C and one micro HDMI. It has mechanical shutter up to 15 frames per second, and it has electronic shutter up to 30 frames per second. Sheesh, 30 frames per second. I might as well do electronic shutter. That's what I do. Of course, each shutter type has their pros and their cons, of course, so. Okay, so now let's talk about the actual physical build of the R7. I wish I could have it in my hand right now to show you, like, this one is right here, you can see this. So the R7 has the thumb scroll thingy on the top right of the camera. So the stills and record switch is on the same switch as the off switch. It has a lock button instead of a switch that says lock. I feel like I'm saying switch too much. This camera does have lots of buttons on it to be customized. I don't really customize anything. I see a button that has ISO right next to it, and I just don't touch it because that button should be ISO because it says right there, ISO. I mean, unless I cover it up. There's an autofocus and manual focus switch on the front of the camera, kind of next to the lens mount. I'm pretty sure, according to my experience, that this little switch on the front of the camera doesn't really matter when compared to the actual switch, autofocus, manual focus switch on the camera. I can't really tell. I have a Sigma 18-35. I mainly use that. Maybe it can be some type of connection thingy. The only other Canon lens I have is a 16mm, and that one doesn't have a switch on the lens. So the Canon R7, I would say, is one of the smaller builds on the mirrorless camera line of Canon. It's the same kind of build in terms of size of the R8, except it just has a different layout and different variations of buttons itself. For example, the Canon R8 has an off and on switch that's separate from the stills and record switch. So it's like 2 switches on both sides. If we're including opinions here, I personally like the R7 better. It just gives me more of a professional look to it. The R8 would need like a Mark II or something for me to be like, okay, that looks nice, you know? It's gonna take more than a full frame to impress me. So yeah, that is all for like the features, the build, the specs of the camera and everything. Hope you have a good idea of like where the camera kind of stands now. So now let's talk about my actual experience with the camera over my 6 months. Whenever I turn this camera on, whether I'm recording my videos or taking pictures for clients, whatever project I'm working on, I am always pleased with the image that I get. It has lots of menu settings, but not too much. It gives you just the right amount for you to be able to say that it gives you a lot of like ways to make it your camera, to customize it the way that you want. Of course, spending more time with the camera allowed me to get more accustomed to it and allowed me to get more and better with the camera itself, which makes sense. Now you guys have been hearing me sweet talk the Canon R7 this whole time. Now it comes down to like, what's the serious things? Give us the deets, Micah, the real things that we want to hear. What are the problems with the camera? The only problems I had with this camera was the overheating and the focus would kind of go in and out sometimes. But both of these, there's kind of a fix to it. So starting off with the overheating one, yes, recording, I usually always record on 4K fine, 30 FPS. That would usually take me to like 20-30 minute mark of just having the camera kind of on. I think it will kind of overheat. Of course, recording, it will kind of be faster. You see that meter pop up in the top corner with that thermostat, and it's just like, oh. And like I said, there's kind of ways around it, kind of ways to solve the problem. And so when it comes to this, if I really needed to keep on recording more than, you know, the overheat meter would allow me to, I would just turn the camera off and kind of sit there for like about a minute or two, turn it back on, and the meter would kind of go down significantly, giving me more time to work with. You're risking like, you know, touching the camera, your framing could be kind of off and you can kind of, you know, turn a little bit. So I can get how you wouldn't really want to do that. So if you don't want to do that, there's actually this little fan that's for like $30-$40. I think it's by this company called Ulanzi, something like that. You can get like the small little fan that goes on the back of the camera where the LCD display usually lies. You just put it on there, plug in USB-C, and that should kind of just like cool down the camera, since I don't believe the R7 has a fan. I don't think any of the mirrorless camera line has a fan except the R5C. I'll put the link of this fan in the description below. Now, going on to the time for the autofocus to just go in and out, I feel like this is something that everybody's like, oh, no, I can't do that. And I understand that. It wouldn't be like so often, but it'll almost be like the camera is kind of checking to see if it's still in focus itself. Whenever that happens for a video I'm recording, I'll kind of just cover that up with B-roll. Get it? Because I said I'll cover up the out of focus shots with B-roll, and the B-roll just, never mind. But this problem was fixed for me by adjusting the movie servo autofocus setting. Thanks to my friend Jake, thank you so much. And it was fixed, you know, the camera wasn't so quick to move autofocus points. It will stay on one point until it was really forced to like focused on this next thing. So yeah, that was my experience. Now, first, I just want to say that I heard people say that the Canon R7 is an amateur camera or a great starter camera, although I don't really think that's true. So to kind of expand on what I was just saying, to justify what I was just saying, we'll just start this, right? I guess what people mean to say is that when it comes to the R7, it's like that camera that's a great step into the professional side of things, which it is. That's not saying that you're not a pro if you use this camera. Please don't get your feelings hurt on that. So if there is a scale of 5 cameras representing stages, you know, in stage 1, camera 1, is like literal beginner, like you're just picking up a camera for the first time. And stage 5 is full-blown photographer, filmmaker. I would say the Canon R7, it would work perfectly at stages 2 through 4. In other words, it will be an all-around perfect B camera, and that's a good thing. The Canon R7 shouldn't necessarily be a beginner camera. And I say necessarily because you can do whatever you want. You know, it's not up to me. But if I had to choose, I wouldn't give the Canon R7 as a first camera. Then again, if you've been doing photography or filmmaking for some time now and you have that experience, you have that money, I would get something better than the R7. You know, I would upgrade from the R7. You know, you should get a better camera. If you don't upgrade, you'll still be fine with the R7. Okay, time to wrap it up. So let's just go over again all the things we went over. You know, so we list out the features, specs and everything. Has good specs, 4K fine, does 4K 60, 422, 10-bit, great for color grading. The R7 has a great dynamic range. It's a really solid camera. It is. I really hope this video helped you out in making your decision to get the R7 or not. If you need a little bit more information on how this camera kind of is, I did a photo comparison on my last video about the R7. I'll, you know, put it somewhere here. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you are new to my channel, hi, it was really great to film this video so you can watch it. I'm on my road, I'm on my journey to the up and coming, you know, so I would love to have you along for the ride. And thank you again for watching this video. So yeah, all right, well, that's enough prolonging this video. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye. I probably shouldn't have used this shirt because look at the wall. It's like the same color. I hope this mic sounded good. Boop, boop, boop. 32-bit. I never knew the Wireless Go 2 had 32-bit. I thought that was the Pro 2 only.